As Christians around the world celebrate the birth of Jesus, the Pope has depicted suffering reflected in the faces of little children, citing war and other tensions in places including the Middle East, Africa and the Korean Peninsula. Pope Francis told the faithful on Monday that the winds of war are blowing in our world and an outdated model of development continues to produce human, societal and environmental decline. In his traditional Christmas message and blessing, the pontiff said children in the Middle East continue to suffer because of growing tension between Israelis and Palestinians, while Syria remains marked by war and ongoing conflict in Yemen has been largely forgotten. He offered a prayer that confrontation may be overcome on the Korean Peninsula. In his Christmas Eve vigil last night, the Pope likened the journey of Mary and Joseph to Bethlehem to the migrations of millions of people today who are forced to leave their homelands for a better life. He told the faithful that the simple story of Jesus' birth in a manger changed our history forever. He said, "Everything that night became a source of hope." Noting that Mary and Joseph arrived in a land where there was no place for them, the pontiff drew parallels to contemporary time. So many other footsteps are hidden in the footsteps of Joseph and Mary, he said in his homily. We see the tracks of entire families forced to set out in our own day. We see the tracks of millions of persons who do not choose to go away but, driven from their land, leave behind their dear ones. In many cases this departure is filled with hope for the future, yet for many this departure can only have one name, survival. Referring to the king of Judea who was depicted as a tyrant in the New Testament, Francis continued, saying some migrants are surviving the Herods of today, who, to impose their power and increase their wealth, see no problem in shedding innocent blood. Francis has made concern for economic migrants, war refugees and others on society's margins a central plank of his papacy. He said God is present in the unwelcomed visitor, often unrecognizable, who walks through our cities and our neighborhoods, who travels on our buses and knocks on our door. That perception of God should develop into new forms of relationship, in which none have to feel that there is no room for them on this earth, he said. Christmas is a time for turning the power of fear into the power of charity, Francis said. At the start of the service, Francis bent over to kiss a statue of the baby Jesus in the basilica.